Okay, well, hi everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. My name is Elena Zucker, and I'm a consultant and speaker. And I have the honor of being with um, a very prominent and well-known person who is an expert on all things LinkedIn. And his name is Adam Houlihan. Some of you watching this are very familiar with Adam and his very generous sharing about his vast knowledge of LinkedIn. And so let me just give you a little background because really it's the essence of why LinkedIn is such a presence in everybody's life now. So my main topic is influence. I'm an author. The topic of my speeches and books is The Secrets of Influence. More about that later. So I saw Adam offering something. It was in my feed, and he was offering a free webinar about LinkedIn, which I always was eager to know more about. And also I saw that he was giving away a very hefty book called Influencer. And I thought, well, hey, I never heard of him. And this looks like it's in my territory. I wonder what he teaches about influence. And so that was how I first got to know about Adam. And important, I looked him up and saw that he has over 100,000 followers, because we can now have followers more than the limit on connections on LinkedIn. And so since I have been launching some new things, which I'll get to later, I thought, well, let me learn everything I can and see whether there's some synergy. So I would say this might be almost a year ago. And as I was just saying to Adam, there's nothing like a determined woman. So I made contact. I asked to join his network. I wrote to one of his people, actually Ron Tracy, because I saw that I could not reach Adam directly. And long story short, I then was introduced to a lovely, competent young man named Matt Vieira, who is charged with, among many things, vetting the guests that Adam talks to on these sort of spontaneous shows. So this is being recorded, and you're hearing the recording. This is not live. So let me just give you the bridge, and here's how today's going to go. I will ask you I'm going to ask Adam some questions all about his expertise, that is LinkedIn. He, I believe, is the world's expert on LinkedIn. He just knows a lot and shares a lot. And so I will ask him these questions, and then we'll turn it around, and Adam will ask me some questions about my work, my writing, my theory, etc. So the way that I would describe what bridges our two buckets of expertise, if you will, is that Adam helps you maximize your LinkedIn presence, profile, positioning, presentation. I got all the way to these alliterations, Adam, thought you'd like it, all the way to prominence. And that's the name of his company, Prominence Global. So he wants you to have not only a presence and a lot of followers, but a prominent presence so that you leap off the page, you stand out in LinkedIn. Now, once you get that presence and positioning and prominence, and you get that coveted one-on-one, either on Zoom or video chat right on LinkedIn, or even on, an old-fashioned phone call, where I come in is, what do you do to maximize that valuable meeting that you've gotten with this prospect? And so I teach influence skills. I help you learn your influence profile and how to judge and assess the decision styles of other people. And the result, I believe, is giving you what I like to call portable power or portable personal power. So with that, anything you want to ask me, Adam, about that before I get into my questions to you?
Hey, Helena. No, you've covered it really, really well. And I think what you're talking about, that bridging is really important because why, initially somebody could think if they looked at us, your profile and mine, for example, you might consider us competitors, but we're really not. Whilst we're in the same sphere, what we do is really about getting you to that conversation and where people know, like, and trust you. And what you do, Elena, is that next step afterwards. So really, what we do is very, very complementary in what they do. Same general area of influence, however, in different parts of the process.
Exactly. But the important thing is we're talking to the same people.
Correct.
So in a way, it's kind of like a seamless learning progression, if you will. So with that, I want to ask you so many questions. I hope people have been lucky enough to attend your webinars where you give an amazing amount of knowledge and the replays. So these are what I've done is I've divided. I had a lot of questions, and then I divided them into some kind of intellectual chunks. So the first section will be all about profiles, since that's, task number 1 on LinkedIn. And then we're going to talk about content, because everybody wants to post content, but there's good content and content that gets ignored. And Adam has some wonderful tips and tricks and advice about that. So with that, I'm going to start about profiles. So Adam, what's the biggest mistake you see people making on their profiles?
Wow, the biggest mistake, there's a few, Elena, but probably the most important mistake is the two things that are the most visual part of your LinkedIn profile is, of course, the image, your profile image, the image of ourselves, and that background banner that sits behind it. So the two challenge things I see is, firstly, that profile image is often really out of date. And I'm sure you would chime in on this one, Elena. But one of the big problems with that, like, we all think, hey, we want to look our best online, things like that. But if your profile image is 10 years out of date, or heaven forbid, even more, what happens is when that conversation moves from online to, as Elena was saying earlier, where you're face to face. Now, whether that's over Zoom or in a coffee shop or whatever it is, there's this big disconnect that happens.
Yes.
Because that person's expecting to see this younger version of you.
Oh my God, yes.
And then all of a sudden it's like, wow. And you'll see it. And I could give you an example of that. I had this happen. This is over a year ago now. But exactly that. I'm based in Australia, the other side of the world to you, in Montreal, in Canada. But I agreed to meet somebody at a local coffee shop, and when I met them, this lady was 20 years older than her profile image, and there was just like this physical reaction where I just kind of went like this, which is not in any way concerning how she looked. It was just I was expecting something completely different.
Yes.
So that's the first big mistake, is make sure your profile, whatever we look like, just be real, just be yourself. Okay, obviously get a good headshot, but make sure it's not more than a couple of years old. The second one, of course, is around that background banner. And one mistake is not having one, just having that generic thing that LinkedIn leaves there, which is terrible. Or I see people trying to pack so much information into that section that, and what we're always forgetting is that the high majority of views now happen on these things, mobile devices.
Yeah,
So
so
that
you
background
can't
image
see
banner's
all the
very small.
logos and everything on there.
Yeah, or a lot of text. And because it's so small, it becomes very difficult to read. So the background banner should just have a very small amount of copy and images so that it's nice and large. That's the biggest mistake I see.
Excellent. Yeah, a lot of people ignore it. And I think you once described it as valuable real estate, the banner. And not to be ignored, but we have to be aware that everybody's, looking at things on this. Absolutely. Now, another question is, what do the rankings mean that LinkedIn gives our profile?
Yeah, it's there's a few rankings, and the one you want is called All-Star. Now, it's quite misleading though, Elena, because All-Star, it just means that you have completed all the sections of your profile that LinkedIn deem as important. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you've completed them really well. It just means you've got a profile image, and you've got a position description, and you've got a professional headline. You've filled out what your education, all the minimum
all the boxes.
You literally just ticked all the boxes. It doesn't mean to say you've written a great story about who you are or what your organization's about and all those sort of things. So All-Star is the only one that you want to aim for. That's the highest. If you've got any of the ones below that, it just means you haven't actually completed some parts of the your profile that LinkedIn deem important. But yes, even though you get to All-Star, it just don't be misled by that means that you're an All-Star, like say in the NBA or something like that. It's not like that at all.
But let me ask you a sub question here. So where do people see the breakdown? Let's say you have a 3-star or something. What will it say, and where might you see the individual parts that are missing?
So one, they don't tell you which parts are missing. You
just they don't. Okay.
Unfortunately, we help people with that. We have like a free profile course that makes sure you go through all those steps. But the when you're logged into your own account, in the middle of it, you'll see what's called a dashboard. And if on that dashboard, it'll have like a line graph going from left to right. And it'll show you where in that journey you are to. It'll show All-Star on the left, right. But once you reach it, it'll just disappear. So if you've got nothing on there, then that means
you're good to go.
Good to go.
Okay, and does that happen for you whether you're a premium member or a free member?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Free or whether you've got premium, it'll still be there.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, is there such a thing as SEO for your profile?
There is, yeah. So it's kind of different to how it's done on, say, a website or things like that. But there's certain parts of your profile that LinkedIn's looking at for different reasons, mostly about knowing where to show you in searches. That's the most important thing. And the areas they're looking at that are important are the professional headline. So that's that piece just right underneath your your name. And then if you've activated, and by the way, you should, a section called creator mode, and you'll also see that in your dashboard, it'll allow you to put in up to 5 hashtags. And they're the topics that you would be talking about in your content. Well, that's at least how you should do them. So it looks at those. Then it looks at what you use as the position description. So, and by the way, Elena, one of the worst things you can put there is something like president or vice president or founder or owner or things like that. Those terms, because this is one of those areas that LinkedIn really looks at, but it's also the areas that all the marketers look at as far as going after you as far as messages and things. So if you look at mine, I am the owner and founder of our business, Promise Global, but it never says that anywhere on my profile.
Okay.
What it says is LinkedIn expert. So, so what I'd highly recommend is that you think about, think about how you do your position description as what you'd like people to find you for in searches. What's that term? And then the last one, Elena, is down the bottom where it's got it's called skills.
Yes.
So the top 3 skills are quite important that, again, you put in there. Think of it like search terms. Like if you look at mine, it says LinkedIn expert and LinkedIn and published author, things like that. So things you want to be found for in searches. That's kind of your simple version of SEO.
Okay, of SEO. Well, that's good, because I didn't want to put CEO because I mean, I am, but I'm really a pretty lean and mean operation. I didn't think it means anything. And I have influence expert, influence
Perfect.
author, influence trainer. Now,
Perfect.
one
That's
thing I want to
exactly.
clarify, because I have the advantage as an interviewer today of I was just on your class about a week ago. So you said something that now about 3 hashtags is that for posts or
Yeah.
for posts?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
again, you can put as many hashtags as you like. However, only 3 get indexed into the actual searchable term that
Okay.
LinkedIn creates, and it's the first 3, no matter where you put them on on that post. So more than 3 is kind of redundant. And it also, the other reason, Elena, is, again, we're talking about coming at this whole presence on LinkedIn as a person of influence. So a person of influence is very different to a person who is a marketer. And so marketers use lots of hashtags. So immediately, as soon as you see a post with lots of hashtags, in your head, you're going to go, this is marketing, and you disconnect from it.
Yes.
For a small number of hashtags doesn't bother us, but 3 is the magic number.
I think it's confident. I think that like it's insecure to put 1 million of them, right? And I think it's just like streamlined and elegant to only have a few of the most important.
Yeah, the other problem I find, Elaine, why people sometimes inadvertently do it is because they've read some marketing copy and it says you got to use all these hashtags. So if you're on, say, Instagram or something, a post having 30 hashtags is not
that's
uncommon.
a different story.
Totally different. So yes, you got to remember, each platform these days has their own set of rules and ways to use them. So I'm not saying in general that you shouldn't do that in social media. I'm just saying on LinkedIn, you should only use 3.
Okay, great. Now, here's a question. I think you share it in your webinar. Do you have some secret sauce about profile optimization?
Yeah, I'll tell you one, which and you can see it on my profile very clearly. And what it is, Elena, if you have a look at my profile image, the image of me, I'm not looking face to camera. I'm actually, looking off to the
You're looking off, yes.
Yeah. And people often ask, well, why do you do that? That's goes against everything that headshot photographers
like about
and
TV and everything. Yeah. So why?
So why is because what I'm trying to do, I know that when people look at a LinkedIn profile, the very first thing they're always going to look at is the image of you, whoever's profile they're looking at. Because as humans, we're just hardwired to look at other humans.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that that's the first place that their eyes are going to go. Now, when I'm looking across to the right, what it does is make you look across to the right. And what I'm doing is moving you across to look at what I've written on that banner.
On the banner. That's brilliant.
So that's the
little. I love that.
Yeah,
that is a secret sauce.
Yeah, that we teach all of our clients. So there you go. Wow. A little bit of secret insider knowledge there.
Wow, I'm going to go do that immediately. Do I look very different from my headshot now that we're talking?
No, not too bad, but definitely I'd say, get one,
I'm going to get a newer one.
Looking off to the right like that.
I love that idea. That is brilliant.
The other thing, though, Elena, you've got to be very, very careful in doing that is make sure that the background is very plain. So if there's, say I took that image right now where you can see my background here, and even though if I was looking off to the right, the thing is there's all this stuff in the
There's
background.
a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, there's like books and there's world map and plants and stuff. So people can get distracted by looking at those things instead of looking off to the right. It doesn't have to be a white background, but it has to be a clear, just a, it can be blue, it can be black, it can be gray, whatever you like.
Okay,
just
great.
make sure there's nothing else competing.
Well, I would probably do a professional headshot because I use it for speeches and things like that. And for today, just apropos of what we're discussing, I have just a plain mirror behind me because on the other side, I won't show it to you now, but it's a whole wall of artifacts collected from my travels all over the world. So it's fascinating and very busy. And people would be very distracted there. So I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the questions about content, because there's so many varied opinions, and quite honestly, people don't know who to listen to. I listen to you because I have taken your advice and it's gotten me good results. So we're going to do a few questions about content. Sorry?
I said, sure, let's do it.
Okay, great. So how important is it to share content, and how on LinkedIn? We're not talking about other platforms because they're very different. And part of that is, how often should we post content?
Well, two good questions there, Lena. So the importance is that, now we can all have a nice profile and look professional, things like that, but that's only creating a very entry level of influence. True influence is coming from your opinions and the things that you have to say and what you share about. So is it important? Very important. What you should share, again, very important. And how often, look, there's two ways to think about this. There's one from, how often do your audience want to hear from you?
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you it's less than you think. And the second thing is, of course, how does the algorithms on LinkedIn treat your content? So the magic number, the secret sauce is between 3 and 5 times per week. Personally, I only post 3 times a week. I believe less is more.
Oh, good. Okay.
Post really insightful, good quality content less often, and I guarantee you people will engage with it more than if you're trying to post every single day, or heaven forbid twice a day, or anything like that. There's also a lot of other things that happen to your content when you do that algorithmically. So the magic number is between 3 and 5, but the real elite of people do it no more than 3 times a week.
So that's like restraint. I mean, that seems to be the message there.
Yeah.
Even if you think you have something brilliant to say, control yourself because the world may not want to hear from you every day.
That's it.
Okay. Now, here's something that I've wondered about, because you mentioned it once. I'm like the student who hangs around after class and I keep asking you these questions. The question is type of content to post, which you just touched on. But another question I have is picture or no picture. Like some of the things, for example, that one posts, I might post a blog, let's say, and then post it as a longer article. Usually it's a story about business, my business, and the lesson for the reader. And so then I post it as a short, I've called them influence hacks. And that's like the really, really short version, with a link to a longer one. But my question is, does the algorithm like a picture, like you wouldn't think about it as a journalist, with a picture at the top of the article or not?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And the answer is more often than not, it doesn't like them.
Yeah, that's so counterintuitive, but I thought it was
Yeah.
amazing.
And the reason, again, mostly is because, we're looking at the things, on these devices. So if you'll see my content, you touched on long form content, which articles. The best way to do those is what is called newsletters. And I'll share maybe links to 2 newsletters, which are long form content per month. I might have 2 posts that will have an image on them, and the rest will be either video or just text only. And what you really need, Elaine, is a mixture of all those things. The algorithm actually likes, more so than whether or not they like or dislike images, what they really like is you to be sharing a mixture of content styles. So a little bit of long form, a little bit of stuff with images, stuff that's just text only, and of course native video. Native video just means that you're not sharing a link to, say, YouTube or Vimeo or something like that.
No, you're just sitting there doing it on your phone.
Yeah, you're just uploading it directly to the LinkedIn platform. Because and as an overarching thing, though, Elaine, what LinkedIn doesn't like is where you put links to things in your content, unless it's like it's okay what you're doing, where you're linking to say an article that you've written that's on LinkedIn. If the link goes to something that's already on LinkedIn, that's okay. But if it's going off to, say, your blog on your website or something like that, then that's a real no-no. And the algorithms will punish you for definitely reduce your visibility if you're using those links.
Now, would you say, this is a question that just occurred to me. So would you say that what I have done, I don't have a newsletter, but what if I use the article option for the longer form, and then when it says start a post, that's when I use the very, very abbreviated version.
That's definitely how you should do it, because the little abbreviated version captures people's attention and gives them enough to want to maybe read the full article. And because that's linking to something on LinkedIn, totally
it's on the platform. Yeah.
However, articles do not get very good traction. The newsletters get much better traction. So I would keep doing what you're doing, but move it to a newsletter format instead of an article.
Good. All right. Here's a question that I think someone asked. How do you get rid of the numbers at the end? Like you have your URL for your profile if you want to give it to somebody, and then there's kind of a series of numbers afterwards. How do you get rid of those?
Yeah, and should you? So yeah, the answer is yes, you should. So you can imagine, let's say you had a very common name. That in Australia, a very common surname is Smith. So if your name was David Smith, as an example, there's likely to be 1,000 David Smiths. So how do they differentiate them? Is they put all this range of numbers on the end of them. However, what you can do, again, if you're logged into your own profile, you can do this on a mobile device. It's much easier, and I'd recommend doing it on a desktop. In the top right corner, you'll see a link that says, profile URL. And if you just click on that, it will open up the section that's got what your actual profile URL is, and it'll allow you to edit out all those numbers. Now, again, you'd probably be fine, Elena, because I'm sure your name's not a common name.
Not very unusual, and Houlihan too.
Yeah, so you can probably just have your name and you'd be fine. However, if you go to remove all those numbers and it says this URL's taken, clearly you have to change it, because there can only be one of everything.
Gotcha.
So you might have, like, if there was someone else, and in fact I do know, believe it or not, another Adam Houlihan. He actually lives in the same town as me.
Oh no.
But so you could have like Adam _ Houlihan, or I could put my initial of my middle name, which is Michael. So I could have Adam M. Houlihan or something like that.
Okay.
Keep playing around with it until it says, yes, this is okay. And then just save it and you're done. But yeah, just go in there remove all those numbers.
Couldn't you also, well, I guess if you went to something like Bitly or Tiny URL, you would shorten it. Anyway, I don't know what's so terrible about the numbers.
Well, it's just when you're sharing your profile
Yeah.
again, as in positioning as influence, when someone sees your URL with a whole bunch of numbers or whatever, it's like the masses, as opposed to if you've got your own customized, it's kind
So
of
it's like a bespoke link.
yeah, it's kind of like having your own personal website as opposed to a company website.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just that these are the little things that just increase your perception of influence.
Okay, great. Now, one more. I see that we're so fascinating, so much to talk about, but we're getting into some time. So one question also, let this be the last one. I have no, two more. I've heard conflicting information about creator mode. So should we use it?
Well, again,
we should.
yeah, it depends. Where the conflict comes from is a lot of people misunderstand what it means, and they think by turning that on that they're magically going to get all this visibility on LinkedIn. So that is not what happens. However, creator mode gives you access to a whole lot of new tools. Going forward, a lot of the new, which we always share about on those web events
What's
that you've been
coming?
on, Elena, a lot of them are only available if you have creator mode. So the answer is yes, you should be activating creator mode. However, that's on the proviso that you're actually sharing good quality content as well. And that's what it's all about. LinkedIn wants to favor the authors who are putting good content on the platform, and that's why they're creating all these tools under creator mode for them. So if you're not sharing any content, not going to make any difference. If you are, then yes, there's a whole range of new tools and visibility that you get from using creator mode.